So hi, my name's Cambria. Um, I feel like I have a very winding path of a backdrop a little bit. I went to Chapman, where I met Zoe, Chapman University, and I got a triple major in peace and conflict studies, political science, and religious studies. I always like to say that I studied religion and I studied politics because I thought if I could if I could understand the two reasons that people fight a lot, I could solve all the world's problems. Still working on that a bit, but that's kind of where the direction of my major was. After that, I did a Fulbright scholarship and I lived in Canada for a year doing research on educational justice in First Nations populations, which is the term that in Canada is used for Native Americans, First Nations up there, and looking at ways that we could reframe the education system in order to better support minority students. After that, I worked at UNICEF USA, based out of Los Angeles, but UNICEF is the United Nations Children's Fund. And so I was finding ways to promote that organization locally. And then I worked for the American Red Cross, doing everything from event planning to the deploying people to support natural disasters. Some of the big ones when I was there were Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, Maria, and Florence, as well as the campfires in Northern California and Ella's joining, more friends. Hello. I'm just giving a little bit of an introduction of my work, but I worked at the American Red Cross, sending people to disaster zones and responding to the fires here in Southern California. After that, I decided to get my master's in political communication, which really came out of the 2016 election and seeing how social media was used by both sides of the political spectrum in order to connect with voters, and the ways that you can use social media to turn out voters or suppress voters or vice versa. Like, how can you use social media to connect with a user in rural Kentucky versus a user in Manhattan? So I got my master's in political communication, looking specifically at social media. And since then, I've been working in the bridging space, kind of similar to AEP, but I'm at two organizations, Civic Health Project and Living Room Conversations. And I specifically do work on social media and web design, but really working to address kind of the polarization that's facing our nation right now, and just how can social media play a role in bringing people together, and just looking at how political psychology plays a role. Social media has also had a large role in radicalization in the past, just throughout the world. And so I've been looking at ways that social media can serve as an intervention point to bring people into the bridging space and get them interested in talking to people from different perspectives. So that's a wide view of my career.
You've also done some
political campaign work. Yes.
Campaign work, right?
Thank you, Zoe. I clearly blanked out on all the things that I've done. Yes, so when I got my master's in political communication, I worked with a California State Senate candidate. Her race is in 2022, so I still actually work with her. I worked on a campaign for Marlborough, Massachusetts, actually, so over Massachusetts near you all, for a city councilor. And so she specifically was the youngest person ever elected to city council. We won that race. And then my big thing was this past year, I worked with Tara Zrinski, who was running for state senate in Pennsylvania. And it was a very tough race. We did not win that race, but for her party, I worked with Democrats on that one, but I've worked with people across the political spectrum. For that race, we turned out more voters than anyone in the history of that race and raised more funds than anyone of any political party for that race. So that was email marketing. So political campaigns, nonprofits across the spectrum, global nonprofits, local nonprofits. So that's kind of my background. I'm happy to answer any and all questions, whether it's college, whether it's finding your career path, graduate school, doing other random work with nonprofits. Is there any areas that you guys are particularly interested in, whether it's nonprofits or political campaigns or advocacy in general?
I have a question if
anyone, sure.
No one else. I'm sorry, I can't really see how many people. I'm on my phone right now. But I was just wondering, with a career or a degree like political communication, would that be a good degree for someone who's really passionate about I guess like public service, but is not necessarily interested in like running for office?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends a little bit what you want to do. So for instance, some of my friends studied like public policy. So for instance, if you want to work in like policy design, for me, communications, that's exactly why I chose to do it. I personally didn't want to run for office. That's something that I personally don't want to do, but I wanted to help get people elected who I thought would make a difference. And so for me, political communication was fantastic because I got to learn from fantastic people across the political spectrum. I got my degree from University of Florida, and for me, my personal politics is that I tend to work with progressive candidates, but all my professors actually came from Republican Party. A lot of them worked with Donald Trump, a lot of them worked with President Bush. And so for me, I got to work with just fantastic people in the communications sphere across the political spectrum. And I really loved that. And I learned so much from being able to work with people from different backgrounds. I actually did my entire master's degree online. Even before the pandemic, I did it online. So I know a lot of you are now familiar with remote school. But for me, I got an opportunity to be able to have people in my classes. I had an active duty Army personnel who was in Afghanistan taking classes. I got to work with people around the country. And so for me, political communications is, if you're interested in comms, especially like whether it's writing press statements or if you're interested in just social media or email marketing, and you're interested in politics and making a difference, I've been able to take the skills that I've learned from political campaigns and apply them to nonprofits, apply them to political campaigns, and apply them to just professional organizations, because I also run my own consulting company, which I clearly forgot about until this moment. So it's a very intimate group with us. It's I think 5 of us and 2 are AEP staff members. So if you're worried on stepping on anyone's toes, don't worry about it.
I don't think we actually, everybody here is either staff or interns, right? We don't actually have any students here right now.
I didn't know for sure if Ella or Emmy Lou were interns or students. So hello, everyone.
Yeah.
It's all good. Well, that's very exciting. So Ella, where are you based?
I'm at Vassar College right now. I'm finishing up my last like semester here. So I think it's kind of cool that you're talking to a group of college students. I feel like I could really benefit from someone.
Absolutely. What did you study?
I'm studying biology, but my kind of interest like lies in my minor, and it's in the economics department, but it's a public policy minor. So
that's very cool. Public policy, I think, is so fantastic and so interesting. And for me, I studied comms because I wanted to be able to communicate public policy, because I feel like so often it gets really like policy wonky and like jargon, and people aren't good at communicating like how public policy impacts people in daily life. So that's why I studied communications, and that's really, really interesting.
I think I accidentally submitted for my like AEP resume, like one of my writing samples for like a public policy class, and I didn't even know that I did it.
Well, clearly it worked if they brought you on.
I guess so.
Emmy Lou, what are you studying?
So I'm studying public administration. Still have 1 year. Yeah, and in fact, I'm going to have an internship during the summer with UNICEF. So.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Where is the internship going to be?
I'm going to go to DRC in Goma.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm really excited for you. I have not traveled outside of the US for UNICEF, but I did a virtual field visit with them recently. Because of the pandemic, they have opened field visits to do virtually. So I was able to see the work in Zambia, specifically around maternal and child health, as well as around how UNICEF was responding to the work with COVID, because UNICEF vaccinates over half of the world's children. So that's really cool. You're going to be interning with them. And I think that that fits really well with your program. I mean, I love UNICEF. I finished working with them 3 or 4 years ago at this point, but at the same time, I still volunteer with them very regularly because I love the work they do. So I think that that speaks highly enough about them that even though I don't work with them and I'm not paid to work with them, I still volunteer for them whenever I get a chance.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be great. I'm going to be with the emergency team. So they're working for IDPs, cholera, and Ebola.
That'll be great. And it's definitely, I mean, such an important topic with IDPs, internally displaced persons, if you don't know the jargon, anyone, is a huge, huge issue right now. Even when I was at UNICEF, my two main areas were the impact of climate change on children, as well as how the conflict in Syria was evolving, because I think it was in its 5th and 6th year when I was there, maybe a little bit earlier in the conflict. But there are more children on the move than anywhere, anytime since World War II. So I think that that's really fantastic to be able to work on IDPs and then cholera as well, waterborne illnesses. So that's awesome. Well, that's great to hear. So do Emmylou and Ella, do you guys have any idea what you may want to do after college?
So me, I'm a little bit older because I'm 30. So I'm going to try for the multilateral organizations. Also, I'm French, so I'm also French speaking, so it's easier to go to work in Africa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and also I'm going to apply for private sector because I have a loan, so I have to reimburse. So I need to find a job. So
that's very accurate. Finding a job and loans is really huge. But yeah, if you speak obviously English and French, like getting in with any UN organization or a lot of the different organizations in Africa, I think that that'd be fantastic. And it's great being able to provide fantastic resources. That's really cool. What about you, Ella?
Well, I've been kind of going with the flow for a while, and time's running short to go with the flow. So I don't know, like working with AEP has been kind of like part of that journey, and it's been a really, really awesome part of that journey. So I'm thinking now, like I'm even more like solidified in my desire to like work like serving people, and I just don't really know like how that's going to kind of like come about. Like I don't know what, I know I need to get beyond a bachelor's degree in this world, at least right now, and I don't really know what I'm going to get beyond that, but I don't know. I do.
That's all good.
Yeah, like I'm still kind of rolling with the punches and following what I like until I find something that sticks. And so far, like at least nonprofit work is stuck, and I really liked my public policy classes within econ a lot. And so yeah, I'm just following what I'm doing. So I don't have like a very good answer, but
totally
that is the best genuine answer I can give.
I worked in nonprofits for 5 years before I decided to get my master's. So like, I think that being able to meander and figure out your own path is great. I mean, the way that I say it is like it's like constellations of interest is how it was described to me, of like being interested in so many different areas. And I kind of experimented with a ton of different ones, and I never would have found my path that I'm on now of working at like Civic Health and working in living room conversations if I hadn't had the experiences at Red Cross or UNICEF. That's what ended up pushing me towards wanting to be able to communicate policy. And when I was at UNICEF, most of my job was talking about UNICEF's work, but I also worked with them on arranging a Hill Day in Washington, DC. We did 175 meetings with congressional offices, and that interest in advocacy and really seeing how we could empower people on the ground to meet with their elected officials is what led me to get my degree. And I don't think it's fantastic if someone knows exactly what they want to do in high school or in college, but so many of the people I know found their path through experimenting. I somehow have become the data expert at my two companies, and Zoe knows this because she's known me for like 10 years. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at data. But because of my master's degree program, I was able to take 1 or 2 classes where I learned very specific skills, and I love them, and they're so great. And I've built an entire consulting business off of them. And it was just literally like one class I took where I had to learn how to use Google Analytics. And now that's what I do professionally for consulting. And it's what I get to contribute to my nonprofits. And if you had asked me 10 years ago if I thought I'd be doing some work in data, the answer would have been heck no. So I think that that's great. I think that if you have a defined path, that's amazing. If not, I literally just found my way. I worked at before, when I was in college, I interned at organizations on child abuse and human trafficking and the United Nations Association, and just tried a bunch of stuff, and you see what fits. Emmy, Lynn, and Ella, were you able to hear Rocky speak when she spoke a few weeks ago?
I don't think either of you guys were there.
Yeah, I don't think so. I remember seeing it, but
yeah, Rocky is also one of our good friends, and she's a great example where she like was doing marketing and she just decided she didn't like it and decided she had always wanted to be a butcher and now loves it.
Oh yeah. I remember that hangout. I was like, wait, that sounds like the coolest thing ever.
And she's fantastic at it. She loves it. The butcher shop's going really well. So for me, that's an example of like, if you would ask her in college, she studied screenwriting. I don't think she ever thought that she was going to be a butcher, but it's what she loves, and she found her path, and she found it after college.
And she found it by taking a sausage making class and falling in love with this random thing that she decided to do on a Saturday afternoon. Like, it was just
exactly
a really fun way to find a new path too.
Those are my favorite kinds of like stories.
Exactly. I'm like, maybe I should take more Saturday afternoon classes to figure out what other passions I can have.
Yeah, one of the best advice that like a professor gave me one time was talking about how she got a degree in like biomedical engineering, which I see myself as a little bio major, kind of like younger version of herself. And you know, went to work for 5 years, and she was like, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, like the best thing is just to get experience. And so that's kind of like the simplest way to put my plan after graduation. I just want to kind of explore. I know like long-term plans. I wanted to go into the Peace Corps, which is kind of a little bit difficult to apply for right now due to COVID, kind of the worst time to apply, I guess. So like that kind of like would be like I guess my interpretation of like the dream job is like getting to like travel, explore, meet a lot of new people, and like learn a lot about like what I like to do and what I don't like to do. But I know I want it to work with people.
That's the way to do it. I think finding out exactly like what you don't want to do is just as important as what you do want to do. And my college roommate did the Peace Corps and she loved it, but in a very similar example of like, you can never plan. She was deployed to Sierra Leone, and she was in Sierra Leone 2 months before Ebola broke out. And she was there on the ground, and they got a call at the house that said like, we're going to be evacuating in 2 weeks, start packing your stuff. She got a call 12 hours later saying we're evacuating tomorrow. And then she got a call like soon after that, it's like, you need to leave the country right now. And so all the Sierra Leone Peace Corps personnel, she'd only been there like 2 months with her host family. She was pulled out. She ended up just taking classes and kind of hanging out and figuring out what she wanted to do. And then she was redeployed to Morocco, and she absolutely loved it. But that was an example of like, she could never have planned to do that. She just was in Sierra Leone when this broke out. She has a background in public health, and she remained really passionate about it. But then she was deployed to Morocco, and she had a fantastic experience. She was there for 2.5 years, but you can never fully plan. I feel like anything. So getting experience where you can is just great advice.
I agree.
I'm very sorry I will have to leave. I wish you a very, very pleasant weekend. And thank you very much for being here. And Ella, if you have any question, I'm in the government school. So I'm grad school here in Cambridge. So if you have any question on like grad school and so on, don't hesitate.
Yeah, Emily, we need to like catch up or something, because you sound like you have a really cool life path going on, and I'd love to hear about it.
Don't hesitate. Write to me. See you.
Of
Bye.
course.
Bye, Emilio.
Nice seeing you.
Thanks.